So begin with the heart. Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain, with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw 5 skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The 5 skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight, and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell on the 3 times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Lavadanga Bhoja Jambe Yana Jabero Angelo de Nita Nyata Namda Rasalave Jene de Boje Yesich Nije Dugara Le Maste Kada Sibi Sere Mani Medo Duma Chizebe Rozo Kula Pechi Tate Yala Juju Yangde Su Rota Chero Nyemo Nyemo Leje Charo Roze Mare Meze Dune Chene Chunze Rajena Dene Tachun Saju Tatu Yede Ludo Jase Tuveko Chada Chada Chune Yede Dalu Mize Jabe Yanadu Om
Arabadhanade, Om Arabadhanade, Om Arabadhanade, Jeje Jeravate, Darudimu Mabaratarane, Kadadin Julu Tobaye, Lore Pobe Nawatsapuso.
Continue with the short mandala offering on page 16. Saji
Jeje Joje Medona, Rirani Nide Jemati, Sanye Jindo Mide Kovaye, Rogue Namda Jina Jeparayo, Ama Nama Jinaji, Chugu Kara Chese Chedene, Chada Tambi Duje Zemala, Saji Chiji Jaba Vantuso, Rena Mendra Gane Yatayame.
Continue with the refuge prayer on page 22. Sanjay
Chedan Soji Chonala, Chanjo Bardo Dane Chodoji, Dagi Chiji Jive Sonaji, Lala Benjire Sanji Rubarayo.
Sanjay
Chedan Soji Chonala, Chanjo Bardo Dane Chodoji, Dagi Chiji Jive Sonaji, Lala Benjire Sanji Rubarayo.
Sanjay
Chedan Soji Chonala, Chanjo Bardo Dane Chodoji, Dagi Chiji Jive Sonaji, Lala Benjire Sanji Rubarayo. 아니, 나무서 저기 참견은 동반 인제 집에 수나 다바를 다바를 선생님이 그치. 나들이 쉬어야지. 무슨 자와라 뭐라 내는 누나 되지자. 신도 뭐가 제마이 대신 내는 필요가 자스. 또거리 쉬어야지. 나중에 내고 가정을 공부해야 나게 소소를 원하는 묘제 로죄제 게자 어디서 뭐대 되니 신 다와 근데 소마 다바 배와 어디다가네 다가시 마소 양다 좋아 장바이 로죄 다바 시바 자시도 그래야 어느 로죄 다와 로죄 소마 로죄 다바 가도 다들 이제 류다 로죄 게자 손자 다와 소마 다바 배와 세주로 다들 zumachawa ramala dene nune dechecha hindo moba chemai deshinden pewa chasya da pewa dere lu pewa ane lojo pewa geza pewa lu lojo geza sun tawa sun tapa pewa nane chaderi shwade lu lojo geza sun bote ane peya kwa sun do zumachawa ramala dene nuna dechecha hindo moba chemai deshinden pewa chasya kadore zo shwade wade lu lojo geza sun de peyu kwa de sun do.
So during our last session, which is last week, we talked about the what is meant by the positions are purified. which is actually related to the first four that giving all sentient beings, your body, your positions are purified, your good gains in the past, present, are future, and future, and protecting, purifying, and enhancing this. So during last discussions on this verse 21, we talked about what is meant by the purified positions, or the how it says you should know that the positions are purified. What is meant by the purified and pure, and we talked about the by making right livelihood pure, and the purification of goodness, and happens through motions whose nature is emptiness and compassion. So now today we're discussing on page verse 22, where it states, "Those who are to receive are very numerous, and this is small. What use it does not give rise to deep fulfillment. Therefore, it must be enhanced." So here it talks about enhancing it, because at verse 4 we talked about our positions, good gains, and so on and so forth, protecting, purifying, and enhance. Now here, how do we enhance? What is meant by enhancing of our positions and so forth will be discussed on this particular verse of verse 22.
Zuma Java Ramala Sakalia, Mantaka Zuma Javi, Java Mambuchi, you are in a young sandwich, Zuma Java Ramala. Then in Nuna Digitas, Iba in it, and then the Kalias Lulu Jageza, the Zote Numujima the Mewa in the culture where he said, so the Chadam Zuma Java Mambuchi in a young, and then Lulu Jageza. Teso tawa suwa tawa, teso de nyunu jima de mewa ina kari chego re suwa ina, hindu mumba jema yin se sambo, hindu mumba jema yin, hindu mumba siya de, sanji kuman kuya de, ta hindu mumba se suwa muso, mwa shi tsimba ni se rwa soso, lega kari chewa ina, lega de soso pe daba tsimba rwa shi, ta de ringi de, 당은 내가 선수 야고 중앙선수 하는 거 봤었어. 대한민국 못 봤으면 희도 못 봤어. 시베리 데리러 되고 서울에서 놀러가 방으로 중앙선수 하는 거요. 저선 희도 못 봤어야 되다 간다. 제 유대 대마치. 데레 중국을 희도 못 봤지. 제 말이 데레 중국 말했어 그래. 그러나 건데는 눈은 되지 않았어. 뭐 저도 르르 저기에서 그래서 당순 어다 어디서데 제치부지면은 망보지면은 눈누리지면 매와 있는 대기 아들 산지고 도도 말해서 다시는 뭐가 제만 있어서 산지도 말해서 제가 산지면도 인도상 대체를 주제 대체되는 배워져서 뭐다 아니 류로지게서 숨보다 당송다 배그래서 어느 배워서 뭐다 망보서 와서 그런 망보 배워 Mambo Bay Beach, so the non Chabano Tomani Judges, Mambo Bay Beach, Oma, I challenge you with the you go to child do it. Not in the elementary topic with the Jew, Jason, only Mambo Bill, only to need Jojan, I did the more Jew, so Jason, that night is also Ludan, or Joe gets us what it, Shanna down. 소음 백가 다바죠. 어디서다 진용문이만 매와있는 산지고도도 그래서 친구를 보고 다들 친구들만 가지고 다 뭐 배워했어요. 주로 제가 힘도 못 받게 많이 있어서 뭐 힘도 못 받 산지고 대 어떤 문제가 된 도도 말에 다 가르쳐 주제 대체 내는 배워야지다. 뭐 배워해서 제가 当送到便利下的，他忙不表列在这。
So now here it says, those who are to receive are very numerous, and this is small. What use it? It does not give rise to the deep fulfillment. Therefore, it must be enhanced. Earlier in the page, the verse 4, we talked about giving away to all sentient beings your body, your position, your good gain in the past, present, and future, and protecting, purifying, and so now it says, whatever we have, our positions, our good gains, in other words, are the virtues, virtues quality, our body is just limited if we do not have much of this. And how can it actually become a deep fulfillment? Because it is a very limited, it's just finite. And how can we, it's just a finite resources, the resources that we have is just finite. And there's not enough to become a cause for deep fulfillment. If this is so, then what should we do? Therefore, therefore, it must be enhanced. One must enhance that. So it does not give rise to deep fulfillment. So deep fulfillment here refers to the state of complete enlightenment. Because it is, and this is small, and what is with it? It does not give rise to deep fulfillment. So now, although our positions, our good gain, or past, present, and future are very limited, small, but we can make those good gains and our positions, including our body, become a cause for our deep fulfillment by conducting or by incorporating the practice of enhancing it. Okay?
나 몸부 빼야돼. 저당 대이 뭐라 몸부 입인나네. 기체지 지세라 지야돼. 제 지세라 지야다. 능모와 지야. 저당 매바 중물로 지소들라 게라 지소를 줘도 송사나지 장게서라 지세라 지야. 예지게서라 지세라 지야. 저당 안에기 류다 모주 게서 시행이 나와 있나요? teleyaranjaya, shengi tamayine teleyaranjaya. Ane ranegi, kaatayagi, lönonji karine, peki, chendela mekandaji mariji padur, ane sumajaya, wata jayatiya, teleyajisyaranjaya. Ane tabaji karine, kasi ngoso, ngojo tabakatuliya, loto ngata, dibi magyube, watane jile tabasoya, tendagi, nani jiba teleyaranjaya. Tabana, Raji Queen Gizar Jisera Joina, and Kalishra Jamawachi, Betishra Jamawa Tony, and Golo Chimuchi, Sanaya, Toja Chimutoya, Chazam Beba Chumu, Loche Todulas, Betishra Jamawa, so Kalasari Sakajatu to Nige, Keshigi, Nogi, called Sano Nanayan, Chesoki Chavas Motivation, Teleranche. 당연히 마들이 류다 먼저 계산해서 얘는 나토요 이나 대리만을 때문에 다야라서 가서 뭐 배하고 주셔 마바이네 때문에 배 야와다 마 제도 용어쇼 새로 배서서 봐요는 정말이야 아니 얘나다 소소 오늘 통비 시나 있는다 무슨 마도안에 있는다 근데 대단 들어서 맨날 지금을 요도 배 하자고 약올해서 근데 저희는 뮤트는 집에 관이 건도 근데 yung sho mang su che che ya antena yu so so tenda ge ran che be ge sa kan yu te la men zo jong le ya yang mo ya ro la pen je san ju ro sho za na ye ro se je la pen do pe ja chi ko yu yang che do so ro da san ju ro ya da ta da ro se je le ya ja ja ta ma pen do che tu me san ji ju ko ma che to wo de to ya ge che do de jun ju sho wa sa no 대한에 레멘토전 모아서는 마세베 대한 고등 무비 제트 사나시 제 돈이 도베 돈만이지 제 때문에 때문에 돈만이 때문에 싫어 대에다 돈만 채면서 돈만 도베 싫어 된지도 도베 있는 무슨 돈이 있는 간다서 무비지 도 있는 때문에 돈이 지금 돈도 싫어 대 세세면 돈은 뭐지 와이나 엔디 강모 게다데 아 아니 레멘토전 마토지 봐도 아니 제가 말해 서로 왔잖아 언든들이 지고 있는다 아 게자 아 배에 다 터져서 지금 돼
So I forgot earlier translation that you all are familiar with, that is, the blessings of inner offerings as we are making some offerings. At the end of the inner offerings, the blessing part, which is the home, syllable home, purifies the colors um, uh, and the faults of the substances of inner offerings. The ink continued to chase at the Oma Humti, Vilabet Chedwa. And then syllable I or R transforms those substances into nectars, and the syllable Om, it enhances and become inexhaustible, and we can make an offering to the great beings or offering to the object of refuge, and even one can make these offerings to the sentient beings and so forth. So this is the same idea of when we talk about enhancing, protecting, enhancing, enhancing and so forth in this particular verse. So one of the skillful means or the method of enhancing our positions and our root virtues, the virtues or the merits that we have accumulated, is to practice of rejoicing of one's own virtue or one's own good deeds as well as the good deeds of other sentient beings. And that's a really, really good, way of enhancing our virtue and our, merits that we have accumulated. Although that one may have accumulated by, one may have done, reciting of six-syllable mantra, just not even one round of mala, but a couple of times. But if one is able to rejoice in that virtue, that deeds of one's virtuous deed, and not only that one's virtuous, but also rejoicing the virtues of other beings. When someone is engaging in good deeds, instead of criticizing it out of jealousy and so on, one should have a great rejoice in their virtuous deed. Will really enables one to enhance one's merit, that is where one has been accumulated. So it is therefore we find in the text where it is stated that with a very little efforts, one will be able to accumulate tremendous amount of merits, which is the practice of rejoice. So those who are actually engaging in the good deeds, if one is able to see them, if one is able to witness them, one should certainly rejoice their virtues, their good deeds, and their meritorious deed. Even if you are unable to see things, people who are actually engaging in meritorious deeds. There are many, although that it is not, one is unable to witness, one is unable to see, one is unable to know at this point, but there are many beings who are actually engaging in these good deeds, meritorious deeds. And think about all those meritorious deeds done by all those beings who are actually engaging in this meritorious deed that you have seen and you have witnessed, you have experienced, and also that you have not known and you have not seen. And there are many beings who are engaging in those good deeds and so forth. One should also, if one is if one is able to rejoice their good deeds and meritorious deeds, then one will be able to accumulate tremendous amount of merits, will become a cause for one's state of enlightenment. This is the way of enhancing our positions and our good gains and so forth. So then here, uh, uh, it says, because we are all familiar with reciting this, the refuge verse, the verse, the refuge formula, until refuge and teach until I'm enlightened, and by the practice of giving and so forth, may I gain still enlightened for the benefit of all other sentient beings. Then whatever that the virtues that you have accumulated by means of rejoicing in the good deeds of oneself and that of other beings, to dedicate all other sentient beings, and dedicate for this accomplishment of one's own enlightenment as well as the enlightenment of other sentient beings. And all this practice of rejoicing and one's dedication must be influenced by the view of emptiness. And then if one is able to do this, then one's merits gained by this practice will never be destroyed, become a cause for enlightenment. So if you want to read the detail about this in the commentary, it is in chapter 16, in the Tibetan commentary. I don't know how it's in the English commentary, I haven't looked at it.
Same paragraph.
So yeah.
And then little me about and the top chivachilia and power is actually. Just a little bit on top chi is actually. Tambo the top chiva the song to Shonachina. So you think in the little me about the moon song to top chi is at the showing in the Livanania. Tambo top the more song, little me about the shows. National Corporation and the Shishana. Top said the top tree, not you top tree said. Jusumuro te doju tere. Tangan diwe shifunjina ma doju te changa jeshawa ina. Chanchu samba te soge, tajadan de chungdini jabu maji tale sumayi rinduwa lo yudu chana. Chungdini jabu maji tale shuya jiri desha, pa sumayi chi. Chasa jabu chenpo wasi. Ndara chanchu samba, liu dang suwa na yungsu tongki, Kambi chuni yungsu mutongwa tanga se tambo tere chasang chanchu sima tada ki ane soso ki liu tang suwa tsudi ane liu tang tuwa re es ine kambi ki chudi kunzo liu tang ma re es chasang liu tang suwa na yungsu tongki kambi chuni yungsu mutongwa tanga se tob chigi tere chanchu sima tada soso ki liu suwa tanga na tesang yungu yunga sarani mi chanchu sima tuyi na pe gayi chwe shido 소소 류도 소알라네지 은유는 튀어서 집에 하장이 배 가서 제대 공부 준대 나기는 거지 어떤 데이 있어라 얘는 남비 추게 가디나 안 동거 말이에스 저한테 또 주면 또 담보에 때려서 그걸도 님도서 그래 쌤도 도서 그래 또 때려주랬다 소소를 류에서 나와라 배 가서 제대 담비 추 성도 성도들이 못 나와 어떻게 또 주랬어
So the next verse, verse 23, where it says, what is the enhancement of the enhancement of the body? The enhancement of the power and diligence, it says. The positions are enhanced through generosity, whose nature is emptiness and compassion. So, let me look at this. Maybe I got it. So what is enhancement of body? So this is question, and the answer to this question is enhancement of power and diligence. Here in the Tibetan text, in the original text, it says, without indolence. The answer to this question, without indolence, and then it says power and diligence. Okay, that is what is meant by enhancement of one's body. So now here the power, when we talk about, in other words, no indolence, then have a power and diligence. So the power, when it comes to the power, there are 10 kinds of powers, the Bodhisattva's power. And so it is more like encouragement, so courageous act of courageous physical and mental act of the Bodhisattvas. The first out of 10, the first Bodhisattva's power, the power is that Bodhisattvas has such a courageous individual that who can, give away their own body, but they will never give up the Dharma. This is the first power of the Bodhisattvas. So,
저당기 수지 배반으로 지원은 소속을 류당 소화대 동금이 대주도 동금이 출동이 있으라고 봐. 양장에서 뭐 그런도 대도대 님도 저라니 류당 소 동화는 먼저 봐. 네 동야당 담비 출도 동화 되네. 단이벌 가르나 세제 담지라 눈지 맞아 배워면 제 봐서 저한테 가르치고는 다스지 지금은 세제 담지라 눈지들 상보는 그인도 제가서 그러고 그게 제가 얘도 많다야 소소하게 파마다 소소 빈자리야 소소 센다니 뭐 가보지 않아 시도 눈지들 상보 맞아 배우면 제가 다다는 문이면은 맞아 제가 말했어 그래서 제가 말한 이나 다 세제 담지라야 맞아 담도 뭐 하지로 되어도 눈으로 저 데려도데 아니 장주스 마다하게 가서 나타나데 제 세제 담지를 베게 되지 아니 맞아 배우면 제가 또 니베들에
so normally for us, if we were to choose our life and our spiritual practice, we might choose our life. We may not be able to give up our life for the spiritual practice as ordinary beings, but the Bodhisattvas, in this context, the Bodhisattvas, it talks about the Dharma, they will give away their own life for the practice of Dharma. If they were to ask to choose whether you want to give away your life or you want to practice Dharma, and they will practice Dharma. This is the courage that they have, the courage that is possessed by the Bodhisattvas. And the next power is not having a pride, that is, in other words, ego. Mostly to do that, and try to look at all sentient beings as one's loved ones, and have a sense of caring and sense of connectedness. When you're able to have able to cultivate such a quality of mind with regard to all other sentient beings, then you will not have a pride or this uplifting sort of egoistic thought with regard to other sentient beings. This is the second.
저世界담제는 뇌지 돼야 되는 거. 아주 차트에 그래 뇌서도 차산도 저 차트에 내 가정이 보이서도 그냥 현다지에 차트에 오는 건도 인텔레 소소 가정에 같이 소소 대 마스터 소한테다. 제가 그 종가랑 게 내가 제가 이런 거 보여줬잖아요. 소소 대리로니 마스터 소한테. 제가 대리 마스터 소한테 때문에 맞아 주는 거 말아. 제가 맞아 생각되고 시제제 대니 맞아 제가 콜링만 유나 쳐요. 콜링만 뭐좀 야와요. 콜링만 비주 쳐요. 있으니. 근데 랑리 타디가 가다 지는 뭐니 대리 소도 쳐도 줘야지. 나네. 소소야 도스. 맞아 키우도 와. 제가 다른 주스 같아서 시제 탐제는 되지들 시제 탐제 레는 라마사 좀다 마슈드 라마슈드 손이 현다도 랑리 다만다 토하스를 쳐도 줘봐 다고 어디 시제 탐제는 되지 맞아 배우면 제에서
So Bodhisattvas will always remain themselves as a Lord and all other beings.
This is number 2.
This is still number 2, okay? They always, maintain their humility and modest way of dealing with other beings and looking at themselves as a Lord and all other beings. And so, in other words, the Bodhisattvas will always look at other sentient beings that are worthy and object to be prostrated, or the prostrations, object for prostrations, because the prostration is one of the practice which becomes a remedy for our pride. Of course, that requires again a genuine motivations. Just prostrating by just the physical prostrations alone will not become a remedy or the antidote for one's pride, but one should have this motivations of prostrating to whomever you're prostrating and looking at others as superior than oneself and better than oneself, and making an offer, then making in prostrations. Well, then that this particular practice of prostrations will really become one's antidote towards one's pride. So therefore, we find in the 8 virtues of training the mind, which I take defeat myself and offer victory to others. And this is all the Bodhisattva's practice. It's still the second power.
배나무도 로좀 쓰지만 또 뒤집어도 다니 괜히 메타지 야나 상바 타바이 초도 기반서 마셔서 제가 다니 괜히 메타지에서 세제 탐제라 용도 상대서 다니 괜히 메타지 야나 상바 타바이 초도 기반서 그리고 엔티 맞아면죠 어디로 좀 쓰지만 손대는
Also, we find in the 8 verses of training the mind, one should look at oneself, the Lord, and all other beings, right? And others one should consider others as a superior and supreme than oneself. So this is all this, that you know emphasizes on the practice of reducing one's pride and eventually uprooting one's pride.
근데 손바들에 또 손바들
That's all.
선제 투추만 나라 즈지 토와 메제 바다스 제가 선제 저 투추마 대나는 라니자 투추마에서 다 니가 추마 카드 쪼가는 것들 여러 것들 메인에 지명나에 변조명에 내나르지 안보 준지 라서 다만데 된다고 냥타와 그래 내가 주고 텔레지 비고도 많이 얘기 되잖아 힘들어서 이 추나에 내대게 냐라서 담배지 탐모 시위로 소리 다 냥타와 제가 된다나야는 zaba mongore yes zajis ta dozor na jungo zajina sozoli tujuma dozoli ya tozeshia junwata tozeshini tini yokini tina kanime jayro tina mayino dozoli be zaba chowa majeba dozoli kondo majeba be ani jangzhong o tina musege tina namore yes.
And the third one is normally we as an ordinary human being for us, if we find someone who's poorer than oneself, less privileged than oneself, we look at them as a Lord in us. This is the nature that we have in us. And this is the attitude or the tendency that we have. We look up on others, Lord in ourselves. But Bodhisattva's practice is the practitioner's bodhisattva is not like that, it is other way around. But rather we should, when you come across with such sentient beings who are poor, who are unable to walk, or who is actually beings who are handicapped or and who are unable to speak out and so on and so forth, one should not look at them and exploit them, but rather looking at them as a cause of our development of one spiritual practice, and looking at them as dear as possible, and looking at them as a wish fulfilling jewel that is really hard to find, but you have found, and you should have this kind of attitude of thought of finding as a wish fulfilling jewel at the time, at the moment that you come across with those beings. This beings is not limited to human beings, it is also the beings, all sentient beings, including animals and so on.
다 시바들이 좀 시바들 sensitive na kaze zambo chonji mata chada sensitive zambo to de nge sorda tendagi sensitive to de soria ani kaze zambo tena jemba chada janjo sabato mani namje de ba sungdo chada namje de jambo sungdo chada yenu mani bagare je de soria kaze jiya ani 최종한 소리야 뭐세 장조지야 가다고 아게 신지 때다 때려 강에 가다 간트만에 때다 때려 다다 그러 멤버 키비 내나 제리야 그럼 메티가 나다 메시지 가다 강이 동에 나리네 때다 때려 그녀분으로 다다지 나도 저는 신지 찍었나 카디서 뭐 초지 받아 메시지 띵에 들어야 하는 카디서 뭐 제대로해서.
And the fourth one is when we come across with beings as a practitioner of the bodhisattvas, beings who are lack of food and who are hungry and who are thirsty, suffering from thirst and hunger, one should do whatever one can to do that. Even a small amount of food, if one possesses, it is a bodhisattva's act of giving this to them, and with lovingly, in other words, with a compassion, with a motivation of compassion and love and caring for them. And this is how the bodhisattvas practice. Bodhisattvas, not only that, but bodhisattvas, whenever they come across with any kind of beings who are deprived of anything, whatever they needed, and bodhisattvas will use their intellect to really to help them and fulfill their needs, just as the skilled physicians can find a medicine for the individual's needs, individual's sickness. Similarly, the bodhisattvas will find a way to really to fulfill that individual, whatever that is needed for that individual.
Tangabade Sinjin Jubanala Majuban Jabata said Sinjin Jubanala Majuban Jabba said Sinjin Juba Sinjin Shana Jeding Tana Jeding Judah Jeding Tazoli Majuban Jabba Sambo and then just sang Tony Juna Leding and Liu Tony Jiang Mother Leding in the Coke Kanaji in the Tazoli Karugovich, Sensotana Ata, Musodran in Nando Shuna Ata, Wada Delicia Dagat in Tujana Ata, Kandajan, Porogo Sinje, Sanganale, Junata, Tana Yuding, so Pashier Cheto, and then Tayakan Guguna, and the judges of number years old.
And the fifth one is to the individual who is undergoing suffering or fear will be one should contribute to whatever in the practice of the bodhisattvas would contribute whatever they can to free that person, the individual, from free from fears, and so in fact the bodhisattvas, when they come across with an individual who is full of fear and so forth, and they will do whatever they can to pacify, to ease their mind, and using all their skills to free this individual from the fear. So this is the fifth one.
Tabu Badre, Sinjin Nebanala Yanda Sova Java, Toa Tanga Soto, Jazan, Tasije Ninache, Tazoria, and Yakoji Soya Cheto, and Jinang Sala Tang Tolia, Lantoge, Netuya Tang, and Chi Miju Tunji Tindaria, Tunji Jaya, Gypsy Kantarjang. Ninaje de Nasaya watch Soya Cheto, and then Janjus Matadagi, and don't go along get Tony, and then Carnage go in the day to the Java Res or
And the sixth one is again the practitioners of bodhisattvas. When we come across with the person who is sick or who is ill, we should do whatever we can, whatever the practitioner can, to help this individual by advising how they can control their sickness by means of, reversing their way of thinking, or giving them medicine, or directing them or guiding them to rely on skilled physicians. So whatever that ideas or resources that we have as a practitioner of bodhisattvas to provide to that individual to free that individual from their sickness, his or her sickness, sorry.
Tadumbatere, Sinji Ubona, Rojo Tagi, Timaja Dance, Chada Sinji Ubosa Sambo, Tazaya Tuya Koya, Dedagi, pointing through Ubosara, Chantazoria, and Janjus Bataki, Roju Tujani, Kadakoronzo, Timaji, Samboda, Chada Ubosia, Roju Pundiana. 양소도지 처음에 왕게 강대들의 연구를 제가 장주스가 다다게 가다로 저탄 투지하고라 처음에 집에 나가 상로 거기나 처음에 바까리네 매매 주부스 tēnā sādhīṅ tsōrayā, anī ālāṅ tō nē tēnī, kōrō kāntara ngārīyā chī, ūbōgī, ūnāṅ rū chī yuwa inayā, tēsō tē anī mō yuwa tūñchī jāni kōrō ndōrō tsāngā rō, wā tēnā nāṅ rīyā sūshā.
And the second one is when the bodhisattvas see someone who is poor, deprived of food, shelter, clothing, and so forth, will always do whatever they could to provide that. And then also, there are another category of the beings who are, actually, by resource, they are not that poor, but mentally they are poor because of their uncontented thoughts. Uncontented mind make them needs more and more. For them, the bodhisattvas will find a skillful means of giving them advice in what is to be abandoned and what is to be adopted. And all of this practice of the bodhisattvas must be adopted by oneself if one considers oneself as a bodhisattvas or followers of the bodhisattvas practice. So whenever we come across, people, as we mentioned earlier, the poor who needs shelter and clothing and foodings and so forth, one should do whatever one can out of good motivations to provide whatever one can to those individuals.
단 예바들이야 대신심이 최대한라 도타지 고바 당스 저선단데 대신심이 최대한서 뭐 대신심은 상지에서 그러나 상지의 최대한서 다단다 차리나 대신 최대 제세야 돼 상지의 대바다 되니 용대 제가 최대 제 상지의 대바트에서 제가 샤는 최대를 대신 최대 제스 어 들어서 대신심이 최대한서야 아니야, 도다지 고바다서 상부 모두 다 깔아서 들어와 다 있는 데는 담도 누가 그기를 도하고 마치마서 이는 주는 도스 주르단된 데에 쉬어다 가고서 그러면서 주변에 고가서도 그만하고 주변으로 다 하관들이야 강벌에 고가서에 소리 제가 안에 된다기 주저고 자와 야치모도 그래야 송거.
So the eighth power, which is the bodhisattva's power, is to restore this restore that stupas, in other words, which is undergone a little bit damage, and if you find even there's needs some kind of touch up, or in Tibet we have all the stone made stupas where we apply this white paint on it, so you can paint as well white paintings just through the paintings of the stupas. And stupas over there are primarily eight different kinds of stupas, regardless of what kind of stupas there may be. But when you find that something that needed some renovations or even give some kind of touch-ups or the colorings, and one should do so.
다 고바들이야 신전나 나도 가와는 주 쓰다가 나왔어. 제가 자주 봤다게 까면 가는 나와있나 근데 신전에서 아니 가보자 얘도 뭐 되게 유명하게 저도 아니 배치니 뭐다 아니 된다 이거봐 아니 추단 좀 배치 된다지 뭐 가기라 간다 신전에서 배 아니 가서 제도 되게 아니 까면 자주 소리해서.
So powers, the ninth power of the bodhisattvas, whenever they speak, the bodhisattvas speak to the other beings. Their words the spoken words are all have a deep meaning, and the words are in accordance with the teachings of the Buddha or the Dharma, and which actually bring about delightful in the minds of sentient beings, minds of who are listening to their speech.
다 줘봐드래, 또 줘놓네, 줘봐드래. 줘봐드래, 세제 올보 동아와 나와 쳐봐, 남지 거치와 대해서. 다 세제 올보제, 근데 동아가 나댕이제, 근데 배 탕 쳐댕이. 대략이 다가다 강에 쳐댕이 또 소리야, 전주도 속에. 대다기 된다 소리는 배 콜케니, 아니 로고나고래 예세지리죠.
English sonando 같아요.
세제
동해 나한테
세제 올보요. 세제 올보에서다 제 준호 판대는 올보. 아니 동아와 세상보다 내나서 좋아하는 게다. 내나지는 요로. 아니 아까이 제 잘했다게 당치는 거 용도로 내가다 따라 수업이 된다게 강의 유행 도서리 아니 제가 나도 그랬지 안다게 된다 소리 전에서 걸어서 콜로지 나가니 어떠시니 잘 나를 해서
So the 10th part of the Bodhisattva is whenever they come across with the poor people and also the who are undergoing sufferings of sicknesses, mental or physical sicknesses, or someone who is completely exhausted from their works and whatever, they will do whatever they can, the Bodhisattvas, using their powers to free those beings from the sufferings and also to whatever the work they need to be done will be shared by those bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas will help them to complete their job so that they will and also and in fact the bodhisattvas will take their jobs and letting them rest and letting them recover from their exhaustions and so on.
어디 주어들 또 주세요. 좀 된데가 자 나를 주게 그래. 저거 맞게더라야 안 산지기 주되는 저서 저거 친구 장주스뭐 주주고 되다 되나 또 된다고 토고시 저 어디서 뭐도 저거 맞게더라 산지기 애들 장주스 받아서 주주고 따라 되나 또 토고리네. 저 맞게더라 못해도 남아요.
So this 10 powers of Bodhisattva's practice is taught by the Buddha to one of the king by the name of King Ajit, who was the son of the great king of Nambisari back in India and Bihar state.
다들 저기 내려오면 또 진이제 또 지나데 뭐저지 다들 내려오면 나서야 돼. 내려오면 되는 가르쳐놓나? 내려오면 제가 관심나 세도 되잖아. 강준이 제가 때 세다 내려오면 봐야 되잖아. 준이 제가 아니야. 안 내려오면 봐야 되잖아. 뭐 내려오셔야 돼. 준이게 도와줘라. 제가 준이 또 제가 안 내려오면 봐 참여해야지. 해서 또
So then, without indolence or say laziness, I would say, which is can't find this is not in the enhance. What is enhancement of the body? The enhancement of the power and intellect position. So the lack of laziness is not in here. Not in the English translation, but it is not having laziness or the indolence. It's in the original text of the Tibetan. So here Nagisha is talking about what is meant by not having laziness or free from laziness,
Free from ignorance,
free from laziness
lazy.
or indolence, we could say. And this, how do we free ourselves from indolence? Is to have a diligence. That is what it meant. Have an enthusiasm of one's practice and not letting oneself overwhelmed or overpowered by laziness. So, of course, when we talk about laziness, there are many kinds of laziness.
Tsundu siya de lo jire, tsukang gila tuwa wos, gewa lo tuwa jire jiji senyu jira tsundu si la war. Ta tsundu di ki chimbo yinba de dindiwa na song warwa. Chidang na tsundu siya de pachi tuwa na tsundu siya de re. Ta tsundu ki chimbo yinba de lo dun jang tso wos. Tsundu tsamba na de lana me bayang taba tsuwa jang yu kawa mayi na wos. Ta sanji ki song le jazang lo dun jang tso siya de re. Tsundu tsamba na lana, tsundu yabu ji tsangi ina, ane lana me bayang taba tsuwa jang yu te toya le hajang kari kawa ke mariya sundu jazang. Lana me bayang taba tsuwa jang yu nanda, sanji yu kawa wang nanda jiwa re. Chada sanji yu kawa wang zang de, sozo tsundu yabu ji tsang tu na, sanji yu kawa wang zang de kari kawa ke mariya sundu. Ta tsundu ki chi yu sundu.
So here, why we need diligence here? So without having diligence, our indolence or the laziness will not be overcome. Laziness will be always there. So here, of course, when we talk about diligence, we're talking about diligence that belongs to the 6 perfections of diligence. That is what we're talking about here. And if one is able to cultivate this diligence, then one's practice to gain state of enlightenment will not become hard for us. So the diligence, the perfect diligence will actually give you a delightful experience of engaging in the practice of Dharma. And if one is able to engage in the Dharma practice delightfully and willfully, then one's achievement of state of enlightenment or unsurpassable state of enlightenment is not that hard. So therefore, diligence is something that is very important. Even if you look at the teachings of the sutra given by the Buddha himself, and he has given many explanations or illustrations of this diligence and importance of this diligence, practice of diligence.
Chida tsundu tsanglen tsuzo le ya, sanji kama ke maare, lise kare le zoe na, lodi jan so, kaana tsundu yuwa tala chanchu yu doos, chida tsundu kawa yuwa tala ya, ane chanchu yu le yas.
Therefore, its Buddha has taught to the Bodhisattvas, to its followers, by saying that if one has a diligence, or the perfect diligence, or the genuine diligence, and one will not have a hard time to gain the state of enlightenment. One will not have difficulty of gaining the state of enlightenment, because the diligence will actually will get rid of all this laziness and indolences. So if one is free from that, whenever one is engaging in the practice of Dharma, one will do so delightfully and willfully.
Tena yindu lelo jela ne chanchu hindu rinji namba rinmos, ta lelo jeta zo mweli ya, ane chanchu zeta hajang rinpo res, chanchu kopang zeta, toya hajang tuye rinpo res, lelo
For the
jela zo.
individual who is overwhelmed by laziness and indolence, then the state of enlightenment is very, very far.
Lelo jena ne jimba meba ne shira jipa te mepa wasi, ta tsundu te imba jirwa, ta lelo jena la ane jimbi kachik nana ya yuwa res. Tena yida tsundi, zuba, samde, shira o zo nana ina tene yuwa res wajam.
Sakushani Sunanda, Tadas Lemos,
레로 지유로
Lilitin,
레로 지도 소리야 짐바 메바니 지미 바지 나네 메바니
Jimmy, oh,
아니 시로 바지 나네 바도 저서 이거 말해 다주미도
so if the individual is completely letting him or herself, influenced by this indolence or the laziness, then not only that this prevent oneself from, practicing human diligence, but also it will prevent us from practicing generosity, morality, for patience, more meditative concentrations and wisdom as well.
레로 지나네 현지 되면도 어서자 레로 지나이나 아니 현지 두고 말해서 다지다 현지 두고도 왜 ran데 두고 말하는 레로 주시면이나
So then here, let alone that someone who is remaining under the influence of this ignorance and laziness, let alone that individual can fulfill the wish of other beings. And such individual will not even fulfill his or her own purpose.
어디에 다 있으니까 레로 면도 도지 이해해야 가르치고는 아니 말도 레로 배웠지 그래서 아니 고도 쉬어나요 또 줘대 enso knowledge of the
So it is therefore one should always apply remedy towards lelu or the indolence or the laziness, and then follow the practice of the 10 powers, the 10 bodhisattvas power.
자기가 레로들은 나세게 저항의 지기 레로세는 지루비 레로세야 내가 유튜브 쉬어야지.
So of course, when it comes to the lelu or the laziness, there are of different kinds, but we will talk this in our next session. If any questions?
So if my understanding of tonight is, so if you're a bodhisattva, your motivation would be pure, and so you would not fear death because your motivation would obviously promote you to a better rebirth. If you were, accosted while you were doing an act as a bodhisattva. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat once again? I got it somewhere, but I couldn't, grasp it.
So, if you truly believe in the power of bodhicitta, then there would be no fear of death as soon as you have.
Mhm.
Okay, that's you kept coming to that point without saying.
Okay.
Because as soon as you believe in, there's no fear of death.
So, nearly, the Chanju assembly, the Dumba Taji to the Chanju assembly, the Yamne Chanju assembly, Yamne Jalia, Dumba Taji to the Kazaji, in Chinjalia, and Jip, when the Chua, Jinayo was in this.
이번에 요즘 말해.
So,
이번에 요즘 말해다. 저 스마트해야 되고 두 주면 나오는 슈번이 저기서 차로 와. 대장주에서 좀 매매经济 이거 안 따와내다. 얘는 전화주는 내가 그 소직 장주에서 맡아서 가래야 제가 집에 매매 차고요 말이네.
그렇죠.
배나 뭐지가 따와서 저대 사람이 장주에서 맡아서 나는 마도 소직 내가 장주에서 나는 숨는 거 봐. 제가 거기까지 줘야 된다.
So just mere having belief of bodhicitta will not really free us from the fear of death. Just having belief. Even bodhisattvas of the path of accumulations and path of preparations, they have not only they have a belief, but they do have bodhicitta.
Is it respect for life more than fear of death?
Yeah, so let me finish this answer first. And even those who are actually cultivated bodhicitta, and they have the bodhicitta inside them. They have developed bodhicitta, such as bodhisattvas of the path, bodhisattva on the path of accumulation, path of preparations. There's still a slight, fear of that. So just having belief will not make us free from free of fear, free from the fear of death.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
What's the most subtle form of laziness?
Subtle form, okay. 먼저 레로리아 지 차라리 개발 여러 가지 얘는 아니 다 차라리 레로 간데 시에가 서비스 레로 참을 수 없아 그 간데 시에가 서비스 그거 들으셔
레로 타라 요래 저런데 타서 샤주고 양 타와다라 번니 샤주고 레로 타와스한테 다도 좀 샤사고는 좀 무슨 제가 마도 무슨 제가 원래 배나 소소 개와지 또 메카래야 지 가돌이 소소 지그 프로하도 요이나야 그때 프로세스 때문에 또 당체 싫어 매네 근데 로레 말이다 매베 되게 용거를 되도데 레로 참아서야 돼 달레로 로파스야 된다 제대로 유셔는데 교환이 부대지대 니노질레 안토질레 가로이테 내스로지 선로카니 근데 교환을 바이 디아주는데 라바라바라래 배너서 지금마다 그거 차려셔야 지발에
So yes, there are subtleties of laziness. Some of them are gross level of laziness. Some laziness are, the subtle level of laziness. There's a subtle level of laziness when one is engaging in and practice of Dharma, in other words, meditating or whatever the practice you're doing. You have some level of delightfulness within you, but it's not really active. If it is not really active, but you're doing it, you're still practicing it, you're knowing that you know the reason why you're practicing, and you have some kind of delightful experience within you. But it's not very active. That's it. One's practice becomes a little bit passive, and that is the indication of that some kind of subtle laziness is actually interfering with your practice.
And what is the antidote?
So there's the nyembush tena kan ten boras that le lo tamolia.
단계부 때문에 너무 레로 참고 계속 문제 제도 가지고 그래. 그래서 뭐 신의 공부 그래야 정말다 뭐가 더들려 그래 시직이 잘하지는 통과가 나지기 소소 남을 기회 잡아내야 아니 또한 되면 돈이 쌓이면 그래야 또세 그래야 나셔도 세션 남등에 되는 콜레로 todo ayungute so de hibit so de tengenze yo to to ani so de ji tenego zogang tenego provade ene be secha ta ta yo ba ji yo ya ge be de che de da.
So here to apply antidote towards this laziness, the subtle form of laziness. Again, the importance of identifying the subtle form of laziness so that we can target that subtle form of laziness and apply antidote towards us. Just as when we are meditating on shamatha, right? There's meditative stabilization, so meditative concentrations where we have to identify this mental wandering and mental dullness. And when these two are interfering one's practice, when those two becomes the interference of one's practice, then one should apply antidotes towards this as a introspection in mindfulness. Similarly to this subtle level of laziness, one should know that when one is engaging in the practice, for instance, when one is meditating, and you are actually meditating and you want to meditate, and you are unable to have your meditation uh, as clear as you you know you more as it is not very clear, but rather it's kind of dull. Then there is a you know the interferences. There's always interference by the subtle level of laziness. So then you have to come up with that, and then try to cultivate diligence. The diligence is the main antidote towards the laziness.
양데 되게 참으셔야 돼요. 그래서 나가 교회 저는 부여를 그래. 제심이 지어서 도마지 지어면 줄이야. 어딘가 야부지를 투어해서 그런 거 같아요. 양양 연구도 같아서 내가 참으러 봤는데 이제 나 저기 제가 교회를 부여를 그래. 아는 도와서 지어서 그렇지. 도마 지어서 아는 자유도는 이제 얘는 못한 거라고. 내가요. 그 지어버려를 토마토를 내가도 와. 저도 소소 문제 들었더니 죄송해요. 아니 기와 두두야 당. 때는 도구를 상상 배신 위지야. 그래요. 내로 나중에 걸려 참다 라바라바 되는 거지만 또 참다 아니. 괜히 못하는 되지는 또
So that's laziness can be the gross, subtle, and very subtle. So there's some subtle laziness that we all experience, that we all can identify, because when we are advised to engage in some practice by our teacher or masters, give you some kind of instructions, and suddenly sometime we have this, wow, this practice sounds very good, but I don't think I can do it. There is a subtle level of laziness. It's interference is already there. And then also, sometime when we are actually practicing, but yes, I want to practice. I'll do my best to practice today, but I want to do something else, and I have something that needs to be finished, and then I'm going to do the practice. Those are all the subtle level of laziness. Not very subtle, the subtlemost, but it is a subtle level of laziness. So this need to be identified and overcome. Any other questions?
Can you always have questions?
Mr. Ken?
No, I don't have one tonight.
Okay. Mr. Andy? Okay.
No, not tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
양한테 용을 그러나 자음에 얘기를 해서다 양소서 교화체 주에 거리 담에 그래 다만에 내지 주주 되는 용으로 와 어때 용 그래야 소소때 준주기 근데 내려이 봐 토니네 저희 나름 많이 와지는 데도 와는 봐 교화 주에 메시지야 돼 달래라고 님보 지래.
So when we are engaging in our practice, the Dharma practice, when such interferences occur, and immediately one should identify this as our interferences, our obstacle to our practice, and try to overcome it. And that's very important because this will become a habit. Because if we let ourselves, when one is practicing and then we have some kind of thoughts come, and you remember something to do, and they just put the practice as a secondary and put a priority to what you think of doing, what you have, the thought that is actually encouraging you to do, and you just get out of your practice session and go and doing something else. And this will happen to us. We all have this experience. So as soon as you have this kind of experience and identify this as an obstacle and don't let ourselves remain under the power of this kind of laziness.
Tene lelo tene tabo rang de duwe jimbe ne ju shenje de duwe jimbe ne ju le jasan lelo tene de rang de kan duwe ne de ju che imatan de meba so ala da chunde tsaya de jasan chunde tsaya de maya chunde tsaya de jite de metane chunde jasan chunde se de 양이와지 채워라면서 가지게 한 줄을 잡아도 아니야 니를 잡아도 매주 잡아도 둘을 잡아도 어떤데 저랑 힘준데 여러 번 저랑 니를 잡아도 둘을 잡아도 해도 되고 저랑에 기획이 정확히 이거 말해 저랑 나중에서 소차는 걸 나와 있는 게 그냥 별내가 돼 야구한테라 지금도 와서 둘을 잡아야 니를 잡아래 근데 둘이 잡아서 때문에 둘이서 이제 개월을 또 했으면 맞지 좀 개월을 또 했으면 이제 과해.
So if one let ourselves remaining under the power of laziness, then this will become an obstacle for fulfillment of one's own fulfillment, as well as the fulfillment of others. So therefore, one should practice diligence. So diligence or enthusiasm or efforts, those are all English translations and sundry in Tibetan. And so here now, sundry can be, translated as an effort, enthusiasm, and of course, having enthusiasm not necessarily be the one becoming enthusiastic of engaging in the practice of Dharma, but there are many kinds of it can be anything, it gives enthusiasm. But diligence we're talking about in this particular context, but diligence should be understood in terms of having delightful means delightfully engaging the practice of Dharma, willfully or delightfully engaging in the practice of Dharma. And that is what is meant by the diligence. And this must be cultivated and practiced to overcome our laziness. Listen, so we'll stop here with this today.
Okay.
So we should say the dedication prayers.
What?
The dedication prayers, starting on page 23 and 24, continuing with auspicious wishes on page 29. Nagi Jine
Savegevande Tenangua Kula Gambela Chevara Joseph Lozan Davai Temeni Bordo Sajeto Joje Betora Bilane Yevide Jemade Sanye Jido Mide Koaye Rogananda Yena Chevajo Yana lama dan dame jye belado jye sadanam ye yede razone dvaje jami bhavane dosho janamana lagane atayane kwasera denje nangatene chochu jivado rosa tembe tume sasonji Jove Mustata Jove Juji Ove Jamato Veda Deva Juvene Chete Zoma Tempe Javoye Jave Zende Bado Tenjuji Cheta Jambata Gundu Sambo Teya Diye Cheta Kuji Jesu Nanoji Kyawa Tata Tira Tuamu, Tizuma Jibi Nyawa Tami, Mawa Kana Shadula Namani, Dagi Give Sawa Nigu, Samu Jiji Radumu Aji.